Okay, hello, everyone. It is 7 o'clock. Welcome to a Wednesday Couch to Kitchen. We're going through Pantry basics right now and everything that you are going to learn about shopping successfully, shopping on a budget, and keeping everything on hand to make you a better cook. So, we're going to go over first and foremost a couple little bits of housekeeping, like we always do. First and foremost, as you enter the room, you will be on mute. That is just so everyone can pay attention to me and we don't have any background noise. Also, all your cameras initially, I would ask you to turn them off. When you come in the room, they might be on, but I ask you to turn them off again just so you're able to focus on me and you don't get distracted by other people. However, at the end, during the Q&A, I would really encourage you to turn your cameras on because I want to see your lovely faces. Also, questions. I really encourage you to ask questions throughout the entire session. I love questions and it really adds a great dynamic, especially to a virtual session. However, since your mics are off, during the class, just submit your questions in the chat box. Our wonderful moderator, Alina, hi Alina, will be able to go through them. If something is pertinent to that moment and I have a natural pause, she'll ask the question. If not, she'll save it to the end, or you can save your question to the very end. We'll have 15 minutes of question and answer time. Look for the YouTube link, guys, tomorrow. This is recorded, so for those of you who couldn't make it, no big deal. Just look for the YouTube link tomorrow. You can click on it and watch it at your leisure whenever you want, again and again and again, while you recreate your recipes. And speaking of recreating recipes, please recreate them and put them on social media and tag us, Zaman International, and tag hashtag C2K or Zaman C2K. We'd love to see what you have done. Also, I'm going to send a list of all these pantry basics. I actually had some people send me an email saying, this is great. We want to know everything, but we couldn't possibly remember everything that you said. No problem at all. I'm going to send a list of everything you should have in your pantry, all equipment and foods, just to get you going. So hopefully that'll be helpful for everyone. And last, guys, tell your friends how great this class is because we're still having them on sale for months to come. We're going to have a lot of fun. So let's get started today. Let's talk, kind of pick up where we did the other day about shopping and storing. So when you shop for pantry basics, you really want to make sure that you're getting the right thing at the store. You want to save money. You want to make sure that you don't buy something that sits in the cupboard forever and something, of course, that's useful. So what are you going to do? Well, I put together for you a sample grocery list. So I'm going to kind of turn you around here and take you in a different part of my kitchen, one that you might not have seen before. There is a little board up here. This is where the magic happens. Every single day, or every single week, I should say, I plan out a meal. Sunday through Friday, sometimes it's Monday through Friday. It really depends on the week. Everyone's different. However, this is on a cute little chalkboard. Of course, it doesn't have to be on a chalkboard in your house. You can just write it down on a slip of paper. But planning out meals is really going to help you not only be organized, but also to save money, which is really a huge theme of this Couch to Kitchen is budgeting. So you see here, I plan on Sunday for some basic fish and vegetables. Monday, chicken chili, we all made that together. That was fun. Yesterday, we had hummus with vegetables and pita. Wednesday tonight, we're having aglio olio. That's a great pasta I'm going to teach you how to make. Thursday, some pork shoulder over rice. And Friday, I save for really wanting to support our local restaurants with takeout. So, okay, I made my list, but what would that sample grocery list look like? Well, now I want to take you guys over here. Just a little chalkboard. I'm a teacher. Can you tell I love chalkboards? So what I wanted to do was kind of break this down and explain to you how I make a grocery list. Obviously, guys, I'm not taking this chalkboard to the grocery store. I'm writing it down on a little slip of paper, but making a grocery list is one of the most important things you can do to keep yourself on track. Again, stay organized, reduce clutter, and keep on a budget. So I'm going to go back and forth between these things. How do I make my list? Well, first of all, again, your imagination is the limit to what you want to cook during the week. You see on Sunday, it says fish and vegetables. So here I have fish and broccoli. Also added potatoes on there for a starch to add with my fish and potatoes. The next day, I had chicken chili. So I put down chicken, onions, stock, peppers, and beans, everything that I need. The next day, hummus and vegetables with pita. So I put bell peppers, flour, you guys get the idea. I went on and on. I need pasta, I need garlic for the and oil for the aglio olio. I need pork shoulder, rice, spices, and then all of these things are stuff that I usually get during the week. Okay, super fun. However, how exactly am I going to organize this? Well, what I did before I made my list for the week is I actually went through my fridge, my cupboard, and my freezer. And I looked to see what I had and I built upon that. So all the things that I have checked are actually some of my pantry basics, things that I always keep on hand. I usually have a couple potatoes, always. I had some frozen chicken. Hey, chicken quarters, that would be great to use in the chicken chili, which I did on Monday with you guys. Always have onions, always have chicken stock that was frozen. I always have dried beans, flour, pasta, garlic, oil. These are all things that I already had. The things that are in squares are the things that I have to buy. Things that I don't have frozen or I want fresh, like some of my vegetables and my fish. Then there's the stuff that I always have during the week because, of course, you have to have lunches, breakfast. So there's simple things like lettuce, cucumber, milk, eggs, yogurt, etc. So there you go. Out of all the things that I needed for the week, only those things that I have squared are the things I actually need to buy. So you can see already how going through your cupboard, your pantry, your freezer, making a list or a meal plan based on what you have, and then making a list based on that is going to save you money. And initially, will this take you a while? Maybe, but it really doesn't take long after a while. Literally take 5 or 10 minutes. Again, number one, to go through your pantry, your cupboard, your fridge, your freezer. Then another couple minutes to make your meal plan, and then just write your grocery list. If you don't believe me, well, I'm going to get personal with you guys. Look at this. Don't look at their credit card, but $78. That is what I spent for a week's worth of groceries. That is not bad, guys. So again, doing this is only going to help you budget in the future and stay organized. We talked a lot about these tips on Monday. If you weren't here, watch the video. It was a good one. Put y'all back over here. So a couple other tips that I want to talk about. Number one, eating less meat. So this is something that I'm very passionate about. And I will tell you right away, I am not a vegetarian, not a vegan, not a vegetarian, not a pescatarian. I am a carnivore. I love meat. Love it, love it, love it. However, I do recognize that to produce meat, it takes a whole lot of energy. It takes feed. It takes a lot of resources, and it takes them away from our planet. So eating less meat collectively as a society is actually going to help our planet and help get everything back on track that really has gone off the rails. We do some pretty horrible things to animals like chickens, and we eat a lot of chickens. We stuff them in warehouses, we make them live on top of each other, and it gets dirty, it gets smelly, and what happens? Diseases. Things like Salmonella typhi and even COVID-19 were actually first found in animals. So if we take care of the animals, they won't get sick. And when we consume them, we won't get sick. So it's a win-win situation. But again, eating less meat is going to use vastly smaller amount of resources. So I really like to do that for the planet, for my health, for my body. So there's at least a couple days a week where we don't eat meat at all. Now, not only is this good for the planet, guess what it's also good for? Your pocketbook. Meat is expensive, especially good meat, you guys. And so not eating some a couple days a week will definitely save you money as well. And there's so many other filling things you can eat, from beans to grains to rice. There's tons of stuff that you can have that really is very filling and satisfying. So my little PSA on budgeting and saving on meat. Another way that you can save money, when to buy organic versus when to go to the farmer's market versus when to go to Meijer. So when to buy, or not that Meijer doesn't have organic food, of course they do, they have lots of it. But however, when should you drop the extra change? I would encourage you to Google something called the Dirty Dozen. The Dirty Dozen are a list of fruits and vegetables that have a high amount of pesticides in it because animals love to eat them. They're things like strawberries, which are prone to disease, animals, insects, you name it. So they put a ton of pesticides on it, and it really is not very good for our bodies. So you want to spend the extra bucks and go organic when it comes to strawberries. However, not on that list is things like potatoes, which are grown underground. So maybe you can skip the organic when it comes to potatoes. So those little tips for extra ways that you can save money. Highly encourage everyone always to go to your local farmers market. Here for us in Southeastern Michigan, it is the Eastern Market in downtown Detroit, my home away from home. I absolutely love it down there. You support local farmers, you buy locally, and also you save a ton of money and get a ton of food. So all good tips on budgeting. So let me make sure that I have a good time here. I do. Let's talk about staples. And let's talk about going over what kind of food that we should buy, the equipment we should have, etc. So let me turn you around again. So I took the liberty, everyone, of putting out some staples on here that you can all, we'll talk about one by one, but I want you to all to see kind of the bigger picture. So let's start at this end and work our way over. I'm going to actually put the camera down just like this so I can talk with my hands, because if I can't talk with my hands, that I just can't do anything.
Water.
Hello, is someone there? Alina, how we doing? Do we have any questions?
No, no questions yet.
Okay, all right, great. Okay, so first and foremost, let's start here and let's talk about olive oil. Everyone, olive oil is 100% a pantry basic. Extra virgin olive oil is the love of my life and what I usually am going to cook with. Now, there's lots of debates on extra virgin olive oil. You shouldn't heat it at all. You shouldn't cook with it. It should only be used cold. That's not true, you guys. Olive oil can be heated, of course. Does it change the flavor of the olive oil? It does, but it adds so much even when it changes the flavor. I would highly encourage cooking with it for most things. However, not all extra virgin olive oil is created equally. So let's talk about the differences. Extra virgin olive oil is not the same as olive oil or virgin oil or blended olive oil. Really, the packaging gets pretty darn sneaky. It has to say extra virgin olive oil and nothing around it. I just recently saw a packaging that said extra virgin olive oil, huge like this. And then on the sides, it said packed with sunflower oil, but with extra virgin olive oil, huge. I'm like, oh my gosh, the marketing, genius. So you have to be very, very careful and make sure that's all it says, extra virgin olive oil. What does that mean? It means that it's cold pressed, and it actually says it right here. Cold pressed means when you first press the olives to extract the oil, there's no heat added. It is cold. Why does this matter, chef? Well, this matters because it preserves the integrity of the flavor of the olives themselves. It really does a lot for that flavor. Then eventually it does need to be processed because you do need to kill off some bacteria, but it's only processed at a lower temperature, usually below 90 degrees for not very long time. So again, it preserves the integrity of the olive oil flavor. Another thing that you need to look for, and this is why I have two of these here, you really want to try to get olives from one place. This one right here, oh, it's up here, it says product of Italy. Packed in Italy or packed in Greece or packed in Lebanon, wherever, is not the same as product of. Product of means that they are Italian olives. And you can see right here on the corner, Sardinia, Italy, that's where the olives came from. Now, why does this matter? Well, because having olives come from one place, and it's going to have more of a really amazing olive oil flavor as opposed to it kind of being all over the place. As opposed to something like this. If you turn it, it says packed in Italy with select extra virgin oils from Greece, Italy, Portugal, and Tunisia. Now, is this bad? No, not particularly. However, you're not going to get really that good flavor that you would get with olives that are from one place. So try to get something that says product of blank, again, product of Greece, product of Lebanon, product of Italy, extra virgin olive oil. It has to say 1, 2, 3, 4 words on it, all 4 words, and it has to be cold pressed. So olive oil, absolute and positive staple. Let's move on to some of these others. Panko. I am obsessed, you guys, with panko. And panko, I think, is really underutilized in the kitchen. Most people have breadcrumbs, but I encourage everyone to switch to panko. Panko is Japanese breadcrumbs. I usually don't get gluten-free. You guys don't see that. I got the wrong one, and it's the only one that I had in here. So usually I just get the regular one. Don't look at the gluten-free. But it really does add a beautiful crunch. It's my substitute for bread. Well, they are breadcrumbs, but it's what I use in place of different types of breadcrumbs. And they are wonderful for coating, adding in everything from meatballs to meatloaf. They're wonderful. So that is definitely a staple. Tomatoes, can of tomatoes here. Always have canned tomatoes on hand, and really important that you get the right type of tomatoes. These canned tomatoes are whole, and they say this right here, whole peeled tomatoes. You don't want to get tomato sauce or tomato puree or tomatoes with all kinds of other things added to it. Just get plain tomatoes. If you want to get them petite diced or something like that, great, but make sure they're plain with absolutely nothing else inside of them, because guys, you want to add the seasonings, the herbs, the salt, the pepper. Don't let someone else dictate that for you. Vinegars. Highly encourage everyone to have 3 types of vinegars. Apple cider vinegar, which is great for everything from vinaigrettes to brightening up marinades. White vinegar for the same exact thing, plus for cleaning purposes, white vinegar is wonderful, and balsamic vinegar, so 3 types of vinegars. Tahini is a staple in my kitchen. Tahini is used so much more. If you're thinking, oh, that's what you put in hummus, it absolutely is, but it's so much more than that. It can be used for everything, dressings, on top of vegetables, on top of grains. It is wonderful and incredibly versatile. I consider this my secret weapon. This is Calabrian chili paste. Calabrian chili paste is my condiment of choice. It adds an extra kick to absolutely everything, but it also, more importantly, adds a really umami taste. Umami is what you recognize as savory, and it is fantastic. You can put it in sauces, in soups, on top of sandwiches. It's endless, and I put it in most things. I'm going to actually put it in the aglio olio in the pasta tonight. Speaking of pasta, there it is. You should always have a couple types of pasta on hand. Long pasta, short pasta, tubed pasta, in case you need to grab some. DiCecco is my brand of choice because I'm biased. This is actually very near the hometown where my family's from, but also in all reality, look at all sorts of blogs and tests. DiCecco is the best. I'm not kidding. It really is. Over here, I don't want to forget also a type of neutral oil. Not only should you have extra virgin olive oil on hand at all times, you should also have a neutral oil. Neutral oil is usually those clear oils, your canola oil, your vegetable oil, your peanut oil. This has a higher smoke point, which means you can heat it up way more than extra virgin olive oil. So great for when you're light frying and deep frying, and also when you don't particularly want an olive oil flavor. It doesn't go with everything. So you'll definitely want to have a neutral oil on hand. Moving on, we have an array of things down here. Tuna. Tuna is so much more than for sandwiches. Everything, I put it in sauces. Surprising, yes. Maybe we'll do that for the pasta section, but it can go in a lot of different things on top of salads. And I love Italian packed tuna. It's packed in olive oil. Yeast, we'll go over this in our bread section, but you definitely want to have yeast on hand. This was a commodity during the first grocery run when we first went into quarantine. Do you guys remember that? We went to the shelves and it was just, yeast was not happening. So when I could get it, I bought it, a lot of it. It's at my house, if you're wondering. Onions, always have onions on hand, always, 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 always. Those are a staple, as well as fresh garlic. Note about garlic. Get the fresh kind for a couple reasons. Number one, it's cheaper. This is super inexpensive. Number two, do not get jarred garlic. The jarred garlic is preserved in things like oil, water, citric acid, and it starts to ferment and change the flavor of the garlic. And that's what gives you that yucky garlic breath. This, the fresh stuff, is the good stuff. Potatoes. I always have a couple potatoes on hand because, again, they're so versatile. Back here, beans. I have a variety of dried beans, everything from dried kidney beans to dried lentils. These are dried chickpeas. Chickpeas are also incredibly versatile beans, so I always have an array of them on hand. Rice, that's some parboiled rice, but you have on hand brown rice, white rice, basmati rice, whatever you'd like, but always have some rice on hand. Of course, flour and sugar. And then I'm going to take a step back here and let's talk about salt and the importance of salt. So first and foremost, all salt is not created equal. So salt can come in a couple different forms that I'm sure you've seen. Kosher salt, iodized salt, table salt, sea salt. I'm sure you've seen some of them or all of them at the store or work with them at some point. Kosher salt is what chefs across everywhere use on a regular basis for absolutely everything. And that includes, yes, baking. Iodized salt does not exist in my house. I keep it, like I said, last class in the back for vampires, but that's about it. Other than that, in the kitchen, this is numero uno. I prefer diamond crystal kosher salt. Most chefs do. However, Morton, kosher salt also does a really good job. That's the one with the little girl with the yellow umbrella. So diamond crystal kosher salt and kosher salt in general has less chemicals. It doesn't have iodine in it, and it doesn't have that tinny flavor and taste. Now you're saying iodine isn't a nutrient. It is, and it's a great nutrient, but it's one that you should be getting from fresh fruits, vegetables, fish, and not copious amounts of salt. So you definitely should get it without it. It tastes a lot better. And kosher salt crystals are actually in a different structure. They melt more evenly and they have a really floral, beautiful taste. When you're using salt, everyone, you shouldn't taste it. You shouldn't taste like things that are too salty, right? You shouldn't taste the salt itself. What the whole point of salt is to bring forth the flavors of different things. Everything from, vegetables, tomatoes, whatever you're cooking with, bringing forth that flavor as opposed to just tasting the salt. I brought out a different type of salt just so you can see it. This is Carolina flake salt. This is a sea salt that actually I bought in the Carolinas, but sea salt is, well, let's put it this way. All salt is from the sea. Just some are dried up seabeds, like kosher salt, and some are straight from the sea, from evaporated seawater. This is such salt. The crystals are much, much bigger, and this is what we call a finishing salt. Finishing salt is great for sprinkling on top of something like salads or cookies because they give it a great crunch and really bring forth a beautiful floral notes. However, sometimes they're a little too strong for everyday cooking. Of course, you should have some black pepper on hand to complement your salt as well. All right, over here, everyone. Oh, hold on one second, sorry. Hold on 1 second, everyone. Sorry, a little technical difficulty there. Okay, so right here we have some Parmigiano Reggiano, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Your fresh garlic, and always have some herbs on hand, like some fresh parsley, etc. So let's talk about my fridge. Okay, so there's also a couple essentials that you should always have on hand that we'll talk about. Number one, eggs, for sure. Eggs are not only a natural, great breakfast food that everyone loves in breakfast, but they're also a binder. We'll talk a lot about that in our pastry section and also in our bread section. Yogurt, plain yogurt, not only great for breakfast, but also absolutely wonderful for things like marinades and as a binder as well. We talked about organization. If the fridge looks organized, it's for a reason. We talked about organization the other day. Bread, of course, always an essential to have on hand. And our Parmigiano Reggiano, which I will take out and talk about in a minute. Really, really important cheese to have. Butter, and here I have two types of butter, unsalted butter and salted butter. Unsalted butter in here is for absolutely and positively everything, pretty much. Salted butter is for my toast. That's about it. You should control the salt level. Always don't let someone else dictate it for you. Always have some lettuce on hand for salads. Of course, I have vegetables for the week. And in my fruit section, something I always have is lemons. Lemons brighten up everything, and they're super important to have. Oh my goodness, they can be pretty much put on everything. All right, over here, you guys like my little friend? You want to join classmates? Oh, over here we have milk, whole milk. I really don't advocate you guys 1% or skim. It's basically water with chemicals. Whole milk is the way to go. And then some condiments that are very important, things like soy sauce. Soy sauce is wonderful for marinades, but also great as a finisher to put on top of a lot of different vegetables. Moving on to more condiments here, Dijon mustard, an absolute must for your marinades and your vinaigrettes. Some mayonnaise for the same reason. And then of course I have some other condiments in there like sriracha, some other really good mustards that I like to play with, etc. But those are definitely the essentials. Let's turn around here and talk about Parmigiano. Actually, you can turn around to me. So Parmigiano Reggiano is definitely a staple cheese, and it is something that should always be in your fridge at all times. I'm going to show you the label of it. Here we go. So Parmigiano, I cut it, so forgive me here. So Parmigiano Reggiano is not Parmesan cheese. Parmesan cheese is a completely different cheese. Parmigiano Reggiano is actually from Italy. It's from Italian cows under very strict regulations. It also is a cheese that has to be aged for a minimum of 24 months. Parmesan cheese is made right here in the United States, and it only has to be aged for a minimum, I think it's 9 months. So is it a terrible cheese? No, it's just a different type of cheese that doesn't have the same complex structure as Parmigiano Reggiano. Parmigiano Reggiano is very crystallized, it's salty, it's umami, it's really incredible. If you guys don't believe me, you can buy this at most stores. If you don't believe me, go buy some Parmigiano Reggiano and go buy some Parmesan. Slice off a little bit and taste them side by side. And I promise you'll go, oh, really, really quickly. So there is a huge difference and you can taste it right off the bat. So everyone get Parmigiano Reggiano. It's going to have this little stamp right here that says that it's made in Italy, and it's definitely worth it. Also cheeses, when you get cheeses, I'm sorry, this thing is like, looks like, when you get cheeses, keep them on the block. So cheeses are natural bacteria colonies and molds. It's alive. And as soon as you grate it, you kill it, which is fine, but you should do it right before you want to use it. Otherwise, those natural oils from it being cohesive and alive and together really get dried out, and the cheese gets shriveled up, and it loses tons of its flavor. That's why at the store, when you get grated cheese that's in the bag, it has a ton of preservatives in it to keep it from shriveling up into like nothing, and it just doesn't taste as good. So buy cheese on the block to keep it as alive as long as possible, and grate it on the spot. I promise you'll be able to tell a difference. Also, one more thing about Parmigiano, the rind. Another like secret ingredient I have. This rind can be cut off, and next time put it in a soup or in a sauce. It is heavenly and otherworldly what it brings to it. That rind is all natural, and it adds so much complexity, savoriness, and deep richness to things like soups and sauces. So this is going back in the fridge. Okay, let's talk about equipment. Oh, Alina, I should ask, is there any questions?
No, no questions.
Okay. Hold on 1 second, everyone. Gonna make sure all this is ready. Okay. Let's talk about the things that you should have in your kitchen equipment-wise. Now, I want to preface this with saying that not everyone is going to be able to go out and buy a fully stocked kitchen. That's not a thing. It takes time because, quite frankly, it can be expensive. So it's really good to start with just the basics and know the difference of between a lot of the different equipment. So you don't go, blow your whole paycheck on it and then think, oh my gosh, what did I do? Just build little bit at a time. First and foremost, the most expensive thing, which we talked about in the last section, a knife, a good chef's knife. And if you were here for the knife class, go back and rewatch it to know exactly what you should buy. This should probably be the first thing that you invest in, along with a good cutting board, because if you don't have a good cutting board, then you can't use the knife, right? Okay, so go out, get yourself a good knife, chef's knife, and then get a cutting board. Again, that is in our knife section that we covered. The next thing, you need something to cook on, right? And you probably go to the store all the time and you see a pan that says if you put a jackhammer to it that it's not going to break, and another pan that says if you bake food on it all night it will never stick, and everything in between. And for 5 payments of $59.99, it will also bake your eggs for you in your morning. I mean, all kinds of different things. So what is the difference between all of them? Well, pans are about material, and I'm going to tell you some of my favorites, but also the differences between all of them. First, this, everyone, savvy thing, is a cast iron skillet. So cast iron skillet is iron is a natural element material that we find in nature and forge into pots and pans. This is probably one of the oldest ways to make pots and pans, and it is the most durable, and holy moly is it heavy. And that's okay, it's supposed to be heavy. The thing about a cast iron skillet that's a staple is that you can cook pretty much anything in it, and it is not washed, though. That's kind of the disadvantage, like a normal pot or pan. So some advantages: its heat retention is amazing. That means that it doesn't have weird hot spots where one spot burns and the other spot doesn't. It has even heat, and it keeps things super hot, so you don't have to crank up the heat all the way to make it super hot. It's also durable. It'll last you forever and ever and ever and ever, and you can cook most things on it. Plus, all different types of heat, gas heat, electric heat. You can put this out in your campfire. It is going to do super duper well. Also, it's great for intruders. If someone ever comes in the door like that, just they're done for. Bad part, it can be a little difficult to maintain if you don't keep on top of it. You cannot wash this like a normal skillet. You can't put soap on it. So what I do, I would encourage, if you can, to just wipe it out. But however, I'm a little paranoid about that. So I do wash it, but I just wash it with a special cloth that's an abrasive and water. That's it. And I immediately dry it with paper towel and put it back on the stove to dry over heat. So it's kind of high maintenance. It's like a very beautiful, classy woman, little high maintenance, but totally worth it. So that's your cast iron skillet. Here you have your stainless steel skillet. One that I absolutely love as well, because it is great for searing. That's when you're going to get a nice brown color on things like meats and vegetables. This is absolutely wonderful. It's a lot more lightweight, and in its name, stainless steel indicates that it's not going to rust as easily as other materials. It's really super durable. It's super hard to hurt it. It can go through the gamut. However, the heat retention is good, but it's not as good as something like a cast iron skillet, which means in a lot of places here, you get a hot spot here, something's not so hot right here. So it's not as even in heat retention. Also keep in mind that not all stainless steel is created equally. That's right. Unfortunately, there's things like surgical stainless steel, and there's one-ply stainless steel. So I wish I could sit here and go over all the benefits of every single stainless steel. I cannot. However, go to a really good kitchen store and have them explain it to you to get the best one for you. Non-stick skillets, also something that I would say definitely an essential in all people's households, because sometimes you just need to do things like cook an egg and not have it stick all over the place, right? So non-stick can have some really good benefits. and some really bad benefits. First of all, nonstick, good benefits, nothing sticks to it. I mean, isn't that fantastic? The heat retention is pretty good in these, not the best in the world, kind of like the stainless steel, but the benefits of easy cleanup and being able to move food around without it sticking is enormous. However, bad side effects, the chemicals used to put on or to make this can be really, really bad for you. If you guys remember the Teflon incident where people were getting cancers and all kinds of other things from the coating, the stainless or the nonstick coating that they put on top of these pans. You don't want that. So I would really recommend you do have to drop some money on some good nonstick skillets and nonstick ware to make sure that it is heated on at a very, very high heat so it doesn't flake off and get into your system and really hurt you. So unfortunately, don't go the cheapo route if you're going to do nonstick because again, the health benefits is totally not worth it. And then there's my favorites, the Le Creuset of the world. So this is a personal little obsession that I have. This is called, many of you have probably seen this, Le Creuset. There is the Lodge, there's Staub. What these are enamel coated cast iron skillets. So it is cast iron, that first super duper heavy one underneath this, and then coated on top of it is enamel. So enamel is beautiful because it is natural material made of glass. However, it is nonstick. So incredible benefits. It's nonstick. It has all the heat retention of cast iron skillet, and it will last you forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. However, you do have to take care of it. So you have to make sure that you soak it overnight before you clean it, etc., because it can scratch easy. But this is one of my personal faves. So there's your little rundown of the difference between all different types of skillets and equipment. What are some other basic things that you need? Glad you asked. Let me take you over here. You need some things like wooden spoons, or in this case, a spatula. This is my favorite one from American Spoons. I go into this in detail on my Instagram, but a wooden spoon for sure. You should probably have things like tongs, whisk, ladle, and a rubber scraper. And there's some other basics, which again, I'll make sure to send you the list. Things like cheese graters and baking sheets. So start again, little by little. Notice what you need and what you want to invest in, and then build from there. But I would recommend, again, starting, of course, with a good knife and a good cutting board. From there, get yourself a good skillet. And then all other things, you can probably go the cheap route, like wooden spoons. Go cheap at first and then build from there. Yeah? Okay. All right, everyone. So let's get into the best part of the night. Let's get into our recipe. So we are going to make something tonight called aglio olio. Aglio olio is Italian for oil and garlic. This is a dish that I want to make for you because I want to show you how something so simple can be so delicious. The thing about aglio olio, it is going to only take everything that I already have in my pantry right now. So let's get started. I'm going to bring you over to my pot over here. And we're going to put in the pasta. Got a pot of water going to a boil. There we go. I am going to use long linguine today. However, you can use whatever pasta that your heart desires. So a note about pasta. I don't think we've gone over this before, and we'll go over it at length in our pasta section. There is a very specific way to cook pasta. First and foremost, get a pot of water to boil. Second of all, put salt. Now, we talked about what kind of salt I'm using. This is kosher salt. I also did mention, put a little crock of it right by the side of your stove. You're reaching inside of it and actually feeling the salt. This is going to definitely make you a better chef in so many ways because it's tactile. You're going to remember how much you put. It's not going to be so detached and abstract from something like a salt shaker. So be connected to your salt and feel it. Then I'm going to take a lot, like a lot. You think, oh my gosh, that's a lot of salt. Is it because you don't want the pasta to stick? No, that is a myth, actually. Salt has nothing to do with pasta not sticking to itself. And don't look up some fringe blog and prove me wrong, because it's just not true. This is going to flavor the pasta. The pasta is only going to be in here for anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes. So you need a lot of salt for a short period of time to actually flavor the pasta itself. We want this come il mare in Italian. That means like the sea. So I'm going to taste it. And if it's super duper salty, it's good. And if it's not, add some more. Next, let's add our pasta. There we go. And I'm going to get some tongs and kind of coax this into my pots. Alina, is there any questions?
No.
Okay. Again, coaxing this around. So you see already I'm using some staples. Pasta that I should always have on hand, some tongs, and a basic Dutch oven. A Dutch oven indicates the shape of a pot. It has nothing to do with whether it can fit into an oven or not, though it can. A Dutch oven is going to have those high sides, kind of a deep pot, definitely multi-purpose. I have a number of these, very useful. This will go down in just a second. I just want to, with long pasta, you really have to coax it little by little. I've been in a hurry, walked away, and the top parts of it don't go in the water quick enough, and then it burns on the outside. It's just a mess. Could I use a taller pot? Absolutely. Do I have one right now? No. Where is it? I'm not really sure. I'll figure it out though eventually, but I don't know where it went. For now, that's what we're using. Okay, while the pasta is cooking, I'm going to bring you over to our cutting board and let's prepare our aglio olio. So again, this is called oil and garlic. So you guessed it, oil and garlic. You're going to need a lot of garlic to make this taste good. Garlic is another one of my staples. I keep it continuously right beside me, and it's in most of my cooking. We talked about this before, but you're going to cut off the woody ends. That's the very end part of the garlic. I have my little trash bowl in front of me. As soon as I cut off the woody ends, I'm going to take the flat end of my knife, give it a tiny little smash until it comes off. There we go. Do a couple more. Should come right off beautifully. There we are. Oh, a note about actually when I'm doing this, guys, a note about the pasta that I forgot to say. I hope you noticed that the salt actually went in after the water came to a boil. That was very much on purpose. You want it that way. Ooh, that one's bad. You want it that way so the water doesn't evaporate and then you have super concentrated salt water that is going to change the flavor you originally intended. So salt at the last minute. Forgot to mention that when I was doing it. All right, I've got all of my garlic peeled. Let me clean off my knife real quick, everyone. I'm going to actually go back to my pasta pot for a second, and I'm just with my tongs giving it a little zhuzh, little love. The only thing that keeps pasta from sticking to itself is stirring. And in this case, using my tongs a little bit. The only thing. If you put oil in there, what's going to happen? The oil is going to float to the top. It's not going to get into the pasta. Why? Because oil and water don't like each other. All right, here we go. There's the garlic. So hopefully you remember from other classes, you're just going to take your knife and cut in slices first. Notice my knife again, how I'm cutting it from my knife course, and also how it's not leaving the cutting board. I'm going back and forth. And now I'm going back and forth, just like a door hinge, to mince up all of this garlic. Back and forth, back and forth. Now, always make sure that your pasta is timed properly. You guys are going to see why I put the pasta in right away, because the aglio olio, the quote unquote sauce itself, is going to be done in a matter of 30 seconds. So you definitely want the pasta done when the sauce is done. Usually the pasta is cooked last after everything is done. This dish is kind of the exception. So in other words, just always consider what you're making and time that pasta right, because can it be cooked and then can you take it out and hold it? No, don't do that. We'll talk about how to take out pasta properly. There we go. That is minced to perfection. We're going to leave that there for a second. Wash off my hands.
Chef Danielle, there's a couple questions.
Yes, please tell me.
The first one is, do you not break the pasta in half? Like when you cook it?
So yes and no. So pasta broken in half is fantastic. Long pasta broken in half. My grandmother used to do that when she was putting into soup. She actually broke it into thirds, and it's wonderful. However, what if I want long pasta? Why would I cut it in half? I want long pasta, right? So if I wanted long pasta tonight, then I'm going to keep it whole. If I wanted it cut in half, then I'll cut it in half. So I guess do whatever. It doesn't have any benefits to it. It just is about what you want, what kind of pasta you want. So if you like it that way, then by all means, break it in half. But I don't. I want mine long tonight. What's the other question?
How do you keep the pasta from clumping?
So you're going to keep the pasta from clumping. It's a great question for a number of different ways. First of all, what I was just talking about is incredibly important, stirring it. So let me take you over to the pot again. In this case, because it's long pasta, it's not going to be a spoon. You're going to take tongs and you're going to kind of toss it like so. If this was like penne, you're going to stir it. If it was any kind of tube pasta, you're going to stir it. The only way to keep it from sticking together is stirring it. Again, salt doesn't do that. That's a myth. If you were to put oil on top of this, is it going to get into the pasta? No, absolutely not. It's going to float to the top. I mean, that's what oil does with water. So in order to keep it from sticking, stir it. There's other couple ways that I'm going to show you. I'm going to put a pin in that because I'm going to show you what to do as soon as this is done and goes and gets transferred to my other pot, which will be all tips on how to keep it from sticking. Is there another question?
Yeah, one more. Will storing onions and garlic in the garage when it's too hot or cold change the taste of it?
Yes, it will. So it is recommended that onions, potatoes, and garlic are kept in a cool, dry place. If your garage is a cool, dry place that is anywhere from like 50 degrees to 70 degrees, it should be fine. However, if it gets too cold, like right now where it's freezing outside and it's freezing in your garage, yeah, you'll drastically, unfortunately, not only change the taste, but probably ruin them. If it gets too hot, also they can start sprouting things, and that, I'm sure you've seen that little green tuft on the top of the onion. That also changes the flavor. When you see that green tuft on top of an onion or garlic, it's not bad, like you can still eat it, but it just really changes the flavor of it. So again, if your garage is a cool, dried place that's not freezing and not too hot, by all means, keep it in there. But if it's not, then I would keep them out and keep them in a pantry in the corner where it's not too hot. Any other questions?
No, not right now.
Okay. So let's talk about what my aglio olio looks like. First and foremost, I'm going to show you actually a very scientific way of tasting, seeing if the pasta is done. I'm going to take it out and taste it. There we go. Almost. Not yet. We'll talk about when that's done in a minute. In the meantime, in this skillet, I put a lot of olive oil, you guys. A lot. I forgot what it says in your recipe. It's like a cup and a half, I think, to 2 cups of oil. The garlic, And then I was talking about this earlier, my secret weapon, the Calabrian chili paste. Again, it's going to add that kick and a beautiful umami taste. That's savory. I turn on the heat. I'm going to let this heat up and it's going to sizzle in just a second. We have to be very careful of this because the garlic can burn. We do not want the garlic to burn. The garlic burns, throw it out and start all over again because you'll totally ruin the dish. What I'm wanting here is just for this to come to a sizzle, to cook the garlic a little bit and then turn it off. And you'll see that in a minute. So the pasta over here, we're waiting for this to be al dente. Al dente is Italian for to the tooth. What that means is you want a slight bite and a slight chew to it. When pasta is overcooked and becomes mushy, unfortunately, the starches break down in it and it changes the entire flavor profile of your sauce because starches really are kind of sugary and it's an unpleasant taste and it's an unpleasant texture. So I really, really recommend cooking your pasta al dente for both taste and texture reasons. How do you tell? Well, just simply taste it. What you're tasting for, and you just have to do it over and over again, is a slight chew to it. Pasta shouldn't be mushy like baby food. You should have to be able to chew it. So it's about done. So we're just going to turn off the heat on our pasta over here. And I can hear this garlic just starting to sizzle. As soon as it starts to sizzle, can you hear that? Turn off the heat. That's it. That is all you have to do. The natural heat in this is going to gently, gently cook the garlic, bring forth all the really light, delicate, and fragrant flavors without browning or burning it in any way, shape, or form. Put this off to the side. Okay, so here is, whoever asked the question, here's the second part of it not sticking. So what I'm doing right here is I'm putting my pasta with the water still in it and everything right next to whatever sauce, in this case the aglio olio, but it doesn't matter, this can be any sauce that you want. I'm taking tongs, or you would take a slotted spoon if this was like a tube pasta, and I'm putting it right in here. Am I straining it? I am not putting it in a strainer. Why? Because you see all that lovely water dripping down? That is starchy water that is starchy because the pasta was cooking in it. That starchy water helps the sauce cling to the pasta. You ever going to rinse this? Never, ever going to rinse the pasta. Why are you never going to rinse the pasta? Because then you'd be rinsing away all these beautiful starches that help it cling to the sauce in the first place. So you're not going to strain and you're not going to rinse. You are simply going to take it right from the pot with that beautiful water still dripping from it and put it right in your sauce of choice. Then you are going to toss it. These are all sure ways that your pasta will never stick and clump together. I'll tell you one way that it will clump together is if you take it out, put it on a plate, and then dabble some sauce on top of it. Just you have this plain pasta with a little sauce on top. It is going to clump every single time. Why? Because you need to dress your pasta thoroughly. Thoroughly toss it in whatever sauce you want. You can save a little later to put it on top, but it has to be thoroughly tossed every single time. So now that I got some good oil and garlic in there, I'm going to take my salt, sprinkle it over the pasta, and my pepper. Make sure you do this when it is hot because the salt crystals you want to evenly melt and distribute. So you don't want to do this when it's cold. And this is why I never ever like salt that's out on the table, because putting salt on food after the fact is just not good. It's just not good. There we go. Beautiful. And smell it. And I am going to taste it. Always, always, always constantly taste your food for salt and pepper throughout before serving it. This is, by the way, the Italian way to eat long pasta. Spoon, fork, roll. I wish you guys were here. That's just perfect. All right. So there you have, and it's fantastic. You know, there's all kinds of notions that we have here about, you know, sauce has to be red or white or has to come in thick form. But in Italy, sauce can be anything from a little bit of oil to a little bit of chicken stock. Just a tiny little bit, and it's perfect. Let's talk about some different ways that we can make this dish different and jazz it up a little bit with some of my pantry staples. So first, I'm going to get a bowl, put a little bit of aglio olio right in it, put it down here for you. What are some things that I can add to it? Well, I have some beans that I actually boiled earlier. I always have some beans on hand and crumble them a little bit. Put that on top of the pasta. Pasta and beans? Yes, absolutely. Pasta and beans. You're adding wonderful flavor to it and a little bit of a protein kick. Parmigiano Reggiano. I put that on top of most pasta because it's fantastic. And that is going to add another depth of flavor. How about some fresh herbs? I always have fresh parsley, a little bit of cilantro in the fridge. We'll go over this during our spices and herbs section, but I keep this in a cup of water, either on the windowsill, a little cold right now, so I keep it, I can keep it in the fridge as well. It keeps for a while. This is a little bit of parsley, just giving that a little rough chop and sprinkling some parsley on top of that as well for a beautiful, fresh aspect. So some different things that you can do. There you go, with your pasta. Alina, my love, is there any questions?
No new questions.
Okay. So we are going to play a little game. Everyone, if you want to turn on your cameras, you can. If not, don't worry about it. I want everyone, I'm going to turn you around actually, out of the pantry staples that I have over here. And you can put this in, you can either yell it out or put it in the chat box. It's totally up to you. Alina, you're going to have to help me out with that. We're going to cook something. I'm going to cook something in the next 10 minutes from one of these pantry staples. Some obviously we can't use, like dried beans. I can't soak them, but I do have boxed beans. So yell out some things and we'll see what we can make. And Alina, you help me if no one volunteers.
Okay.
Soup.
Hummus.
What was that?
Soup.
Soup?
Oh,
In the
okay.
chat,
Hummus.
in the chat, there's tahini and peanut oil.
Tahini, peanut oil. And someone said, was that soup? I don't know. I don't have soup. Like stock, you mean? Oh, wait, no.
I also heard hummus.
Hummus I don't have on hand. Sorry, guys. Something I'd have to make. How about, did someone say garlic? I think I saw. Hold on. I have garlic. We'll do a little bit of garlic. Okay, so peanut oil, tahini, garlic. What else? Alina, what do you think? The red stuff. Let's see. Okay, the red stuff. I like it. Yeah? Okay, let's go with this. All right, I have peanut oil, I have tahini, I have garlic, and I have the red stuff. By the way, that's Calabrian chili paste, but it's neither here nor there. It's all good. All right. So this is going to be a good example of some great things that we can make with our staples. We are going to make a dressing, and I am going to add a couple more things to it that I have that are still staples, but I have on hand. We're going to make a tahini dressing, and that is going to be drizzled over some vegetables. So I'm going to get out a couple things here. I'm going to get out a food processor, but you can do this in a blender. Plug this in. There we go. I'm going to turn you around, put you back on the cutting board. All right. So we have our tahini. This is a new one. So tahini, if you haven't worked with it before, is a sesame seed paste that's packed in oil. And you can see that the oil actually floats to the top. So because it floats to the top, you want to mix it. So I just taken a knife or spoon, mix it really well, and that's going to go into my food processor. There we go. Again, you can do this. It works really, really well in a blender. Next, someone said garlic. So we're going to put in some garlic in there. 1 garlic clove. Let's throw some garlic in there. We have some Calabrian chili paste. That stuff goes in everything. Put a little bit of that in there. I am also going to squeeze a lemon. Again, lemons are something that I say always have on hand because they brighten up absolutely positively everything. They are essential. Lemon squeezer out here. Turn you around to the thing again. Here we go. Beautiful. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Let's blend this all up together. And then through the feed tube here, let's add a little oil. Lovely. Let's see what, okay, this is a little pasty. So I'm going to put some water in it to make it thin. Always, always taste. Always. There we go. That's a nice texture. Beautiful. See what it needs? Ooh, that's good. That's all it took. Tahini, garlic, lemon. The peanut oil was perfect because it really complements the sesame seed taste of the tahini, and a little bit of water to thin it out. Now watch this, guys. I happen to have, because I made it the other night, some vegetables. Like I told you, we go meatless a couple times a week. So this right here is cauliflower rice. That's for another class another time. and some roasted Brussels sprouts. And I'm going to heat this up real quick in the microwave. Give it a minute. Show you what we can do with that beautiful sauce. That's a good one. Anyone have any questions so far?
There's 2 in the chat.
Tell me.
Where do you get the Calabrian chili paste?
Ooh,
Amazon
good question.
says for $15. Is it cheaper somewhere else?
Only $15, Lord Almighty. Yes. So go to your local Italian superstore. That would be Contoro's. There's 2 locations of Contoro's. There's one in Plymouth on Haggerty in between 5 and 6 Mile, and one in Livonia on 7 and Middle Belts. It's called Contoro's, and they will have Calabrian chili paste for like $7 a jar, not for 15. That's a little outrageous, for sure. I know it's a little hard to find. It's one of those things, but it is completely worth it. And I really do like the brand Tutto Calabria. However, there are other brands of Calabrian chili paste as well that are really good. Is there another one?
Yes. What kind of beans did you put in the pasta?
Oh, sorry, I should have mentioned that. So those are white kidney beans that I just gave a little smash beforehand. The white kidney beans I had dried. I gave them a nice soak overnight and then boiled them until they were soft, and then just gave them a little smash with my hands and put them on top of the pasta. Beans on top of pasta is just one of my favorites. I love it. And I'm usually eating beans of some sort because I love them.
And then the last one is, what does the Calabrian chili paste taste like?
Oh, gosh, you're asking me to get out my big adjectives. Salty, spicy, rich, a little olive oil flavor in it. It's almost like biting into like a burger, you know, and you not that it's meaty, it's not, but at the same time, it's thick like that. And when you first bite into a really good burger and your mouth kind of waters and you're like, oh yeah, that's all the umami flavors. That's chili paste for sure. And it's not too spicy at all, it's just a little zing. All right, everyone. So I have those vegetables again. We have our riced cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and this is what you guys wanted, the beautiful tahini. Look at that I made into a sauce just out of some Pantry basics. That is going to jazz up anything, any sort of roasted vegetables. It's beautiful on meats. It is absolutely great, and it also lasts in the fridge. So I'm going to put this in the fridge and drizzle it on top of my eggs in the morning. That's also wonderful. So hope you enjoyed some Pantry basics and understand now that if you just have your basic things on hand, there's so much you can do. It saves you money. It keeps you organized. By keeping yourself in this mode, I should always have certain things on hand, it will definitely allow you to be a better cook. It won't be running out to get a billion things all the time. So now let's see, we have like 5 more minutes. Is there any more questions? I would highly encourage you guys. I'm going to actually take you over to my computer here so I can see some of the questions too, but turn on your cameras if you'd like. I would love to see you. What are some more questions that you have?
There was like on a scale of 1 to 10, how spicy is it, or compared to jalapeno or habanero?
Oh, mild. I would say like a 2 or a 3. It's very, very low. Like compared to a jalapeno, I wouldn't. It's low for sure. Anyone else? I'm going to let out my dog while everyone's thinking about it. The joys of teaching at home. There we go. No, all good? Okay. Well, it was absolutely wonderful having you guys here. Thank you so much again. And I will see a lot of you, because a lot of you bought the whole package. We'll see a lot of you next week. And again, don't worry if you weren't able to come. We're sending you the YouTube video. I'm also sending you a list of all the essentials that you should have in your kitchen at all times. And of course, if anyone has any questions they think of at the last minute or think of after they watch the video, please email me. I am here for you. So all the best, everyone, and have a great night. Bye, guys.